There is a difference between ritual work and magical work. Unfortunately, the vast majority of sorcerers equate the two, but really these are two different things that happen to overlap. Pure magic can be manifested with will alone. This is possible, and you can achieve tangible results with this. Pure ritual is the techniques, the words of power, and the mudras, the mantras, the physical implements, all the techniques that are used to catalyze the magic and the manifestation of the will, at least in theory. And in this overlapping zone, you have a gradation of how much ritual is going into something and the amount of magic that is being channeled through it. Now, the amount of time spent practicing the occult is somewhat of an indicator as to how powerful that sorcerer will be, but this is not a sure thing. Because you can practice the same thing over and over using bad technique and still not get anywhere. Like, for example, I was dragged to a Wicca coven, and what I saw there were witches that were doing the same rituals month after month on the full moon for the past 30 to 40 years and not manifesting any results. What many of them were asking for was to release childhood trauma. Now, this really isn't the hardest thing to do with sorcery. And certainly after that amount of time, you should see some kind of results. But after witnessing this and hearing about how long they've been doing this, I was left wondering, why are you people even here? What are you doing? If you're not manifesting the results that you want, there is something wrong with your formula. And many will just go through the same motions. Those are the kinds of people that will accept going through the same motions over and over out of habit. Many other sorcerers, on the other hand, will go into a blame game where they will try to ascribe their own personal failures onto someone or something else, be it another sorcerer interfering with their magic, or the government, or foreign governments, or deities, or aliens. I've heard it all. I have heard every excuse under the sun. I've been doing this for almost 30 years, so rather than look at themselves, they would rather blame someone else or something else. And it's really just an ego thing. Rather than go back to the drawing board, they'd rather blame a demon or an angel or some other external force that is, for one reason or another, is preventing them from making progress or manifesting something or putting blocks on them or whatever. And there's also there's a bit of a reason for that too, because it can be disheartening when you're putting a lot of time into something, when you're kind of like smashing your head into a wall over and over and not making much progress. Putting all this time into something that's not yielding anything back can be discouraging. Working through this requires a lot of self-honesty, both regarding the legitimacy of your favorite tradition, no matter if it's a book or a lodge, as well as brutal self-honesty regarding your own self-discipline. Another common coping mechanism is the fantasy world coping mechanism. This is so common, very, very common pitfall, is to assume that the magic is working, it's just on another plane, and the sorcerer just will not even try to get their magic to work here on Earth. They just stay stuck out there. They only are looking at their own projections and ethers and thinking that's magic. And that's playing in another realm at best or delusion at worst. Now, once a sorcerer has tapped into real power, the necessity for ritual and ritual implements diminishes over time. Until eventually, when you get to the end of the road, you no longer need them at all. And unfortunately, there's another common pitfall, which a lot of occult authors, unfortunately, have propagated this notion, and that's that anything will work. No. It doesn't matter what you do, you can use anything you want, you can say whatever you want, and it all is equally valid. This bullshit notion has infected the sorcery community, the occult community, regardless of tradition. White Lodge, Black Lodge, left hand path, right hand path, Hindu sorcery, Norse sorcery, even some of the Afro-Caribbean religions and their knockoffs. And you can't just use anything you want. There is a time where eventually you can gain enough skill to where you can start tweaking formulas. If you know what you're doing, if you have the metaphysical grounding to do so, you can start adjusting formulas. And then eventually, when you start getting into pure spirit, you actually start to leave away sorcery entirely and enter into the world of mysticism, where you won't need any ritual implements or tools whatsoever. But that's at the end of the road, not the beginning. And you need to use tools in the beginning for a reason. And it's because it's a catalyst. Tools are there for a reason in the various traditions because there is a use for them, especially for beginners and intermediates. When you're advanced, you can start leaving behind the tools because they start to feel like a crutch. But in the meantime, until you get to that point, they are a catalyst. You can't just do away with them or swap them out for anything that you want. So follow the guidelines of your tradition, especially a tradition that is notable, that is confirmed to be able to manifest tangible results. And until you really get a good feel for it, a good grounding in that tradition, don't try to start modifying things.